Marisa swore as a young child that she would never have 4 kids.
My name is Ellie and I'm 5.
Everything I say I'm never gonna do, the Lord has me do. If I don't have him, I have nothing. We were set up by our parents.
The Lord was messing with me. Am I going to the ministry? Am I going into engineering?
I always knew that I wanted to work in healthcare.
Showing up at the sonogram with no heartbeat.
We miscarried was a big surprise. What does this mean for our family?
My name is Ellie and I'm 5.
She's
Crazy.
loud.
Crazy and loud.
She gives us gray hair. She's
Very,
great. She cut her hair last week.
very opinionated. She's our little mischief one.
She's scribbled on the cat's face with a Sharpie before.
That's right. Ellie is our gift from the Lord who keeps on giving in various God-sanctifying ways on our parenting and patience and things.
My name is Michael and I'm 7 years old. I want to be one of those people who play video games for money.
He's just all boy. He's got a family full of sisters, and so he's just sweet and kind, and
He'll be a great husband.
he's going to be a
one
great
day.
husband one day.
He's
and
awesome.
loves his game time and screen time that he gets, and then just a boy at times wants to just run around on the bike, play outside, play sword fights and soccer and all the things that they do with their neighborhood friends.
My name's Annie and I'm 10.
Her room cannot stay clean for a minute.
Very
Yeah.
true.
She is our creative type, super friendly, cares for her friends, fun-spirited person.
She's also got a little bit of a bent towards athletics, basketball, soccer, and then also is the only one that asked me about engineering stuff.
My name is Lucy and I'm 12.
Bossy.
What did you expect?
Yeah, so Lucy is very responsible, very high justice chip. The world must be fair.
She's super smart,
Super smart,
gifted in what she does. She's
picks
very
up
thoughtful.
picks up in musical instruments really well, piano, oboe.
We do some video games.
Yep.
As family.
Swings, bikes, basketball, throwing
Wheels
footballs.
outside. Lots of balls in the air. Trying to get all the kids to all the activities. Between our work, just trying to manage everything. We're busy. Very busy. We're both from large families. I'm the oldest of 4.
And I have 2 biological siblings and then 2 adopted little brothers.
My dad's from Mexico. My mom is from here. My mom is a physical therapist. I always knew that I wanted to work in healthcare in some degree. Throughout high school, I was able to do some internships or like shadowing different people in the healthcare profession to see what I wanted to do. And I always laughed because I thought, I told myself, I was like, I will never be a nurse because I do the really messy things, and I'll never be a doctor because it takes too much school. And kind of the theme of my life has been everything I say I'm never going to do, the Lord has me do. And so I'm a nurse practitioner, which is kind of like a combination of both.
When I was a kid, grew up in a Christian home to believing parents. My dad, he's an electrical engineer, so I grew up around early days of computers. So I learned to touch, type, and read at the same time. We had internet at the house before most people knew what it was. When the web started being a thing, I was coding my friends' websites. As a 14, 15-year-old, got a degree in computer science at that point and knew I was going to be an engineer. Had a job to build websites. Or go into the aerospace, and I'll say it was far more interesting to go into the aerospace side of the house, and so that started my career in that side, in the engineering side.
Faith has always been important in my family from the beginning. Became a believer early on, but then kind of realized what it really meant to have time with the Lord every day. Like in high school, I was in a Bible study group of girls where I was like discipled by college and grown mentors. So that was super impactful. And then when I went to college, I think the Lord, like especially my 3rd year of college, that's when I really realized like God's sovereignty. And if I don't have him, I have nothing. So I think it's just kind of been a building of faith along the way. I've always felt like I've known the Lord and walked with him, but each step has, challenged along the way.
I've always known about Christ, always known the stories of Jesus. Was baptized in 3rd grade. 10th grade came along and There was a season of doubting. This is my family's faith. Is it my faith? Is this something that I want to be in part of my life on? There was a particular sermon that was I'll say a little bit scary. That's when my faith became not my family thing, not my cultural thing, but something that I personally took on for myself. Came out of that period, went to college, was involved in Bible studies and a variety of things from really early on, freshman year and on. I was leading a Bible study by the time I became a sophomore, and so all of a sudden studying the Word became part of my normal practice. And that having to teach it and show others. Somewhere along the way, we got involved in student ministry, and I had a bunch of 10th graders that I was actively discipling. In that place, it was like, man, I better believe this stuff, and I better live according to it, because I got a bunch of kids that are following me around. So that's when it became sort of, this is what I do, this is who I am. My junior year, I'll say the Lord was messing with me, just emotionally, just in it. What do I do? Am I going to the ministry? Am I going into engineering? Senior year, it was, okay, I've got this girlfriend and I think I should marry her.
We were set up by our parents. We actually met when I was 6 weeks old, and I went to his baby shower when he wasn't really out yet. Our moms did a lot of stuff together at the beginning, and our parents would go on double dates. And so we are the same age, but we were in different circles growing up. Our moms were both physical therapists.
Work friends, and then they occasionally would get the families together. Marisa always looked 6 years younger than I do, still does to this day. And I had no idea that she was my age.
When we were both home for college or for Christmas break in college, our junior years, we were forced to go to a family dinner.
My mom looked at me with that look of, you'll do what you're told next. And that was, hey, the Serenos are coming over with their 21-year-old eligible daughter, quote unquote.
Hey, we're going to this family dinner. You have to go too,
And I was like, all right, Mom, what's the deal? The soon-to-be wife, if you will, was sitting across the table. We were on the same team together.
We played Taboo to 100, which is a really long count for that game. And so I remember getting in the car thinking, like, he's really cute, but he was at A&M and I was at Sanford, and that's, many miles apart. It's like, this is never going to work. So
it was spring break. I called home and was asking, hey, is Marisa home? Would love to take her out, assuming that she was going to be around. And her younger sister answered the phone and was like, no, she's at college. Ugh. So she hung up the phone, and then not very much long later, her mom called back, left a message on the old school answering machine with the tape, said, hey, just want to let you know, here's Marisa's cell phone, here's her email address, feel free to reach out to her, just wanted to make sure you could get a hold of her, all right, bye, click. We had a couple of phone calls. That Easter we went out on our first date. We were both back in town, got to see each other on a fairly regular basis. Parents really wanted us to get together.
We did a lot of emailing and letters and a lot of phone calls. We were talking just about what we were going to do after graduation, because at the time we were juniors and seniors in college, and I really liked him a lot, and I thought this was the guy I was going to marry. But he at one point had thoughts that he wanted to be a missionary, and I wasn't sure that I wanted to do that.
Was involved with a missionary sending organization that I helped out with, and I was in that circle, and I was like, man, is this what it is?
During our whole dating time, seeing our relationship kind of like fine china, I am not in charge of this, and if I hold on to it too tightly, I'm gonna drop it and it's gonna shatter. And so whatever the Lord wants to do, let me be available. And then we got engaged that next spring.
I was married 7 months later after we graduated.
Throughout our lives, it's our married life especially, there's just been, times where you think you're going to do this and the Lord's like, nope, we're going to do this, and changes our plans.
Marisa swore as a young child that she would never have 4 kids. And there was the roller coaster of the news being a surprise. We weren't trying at that point in time. It was against significant statistical odds as an engineer. That matters. Man, another kid. What are we going to do? This wasn't the plan. We thought we were moving out of a certain life stage of having little tiny babies at home. We don't have a room in our current house. But also, man, if this is what the Lord has for us, then great. Getting ourselves ramped up for it, right? And being like, hey, this is what we're going to do. All right. And then showing up at the sonogram with no heartbeat and just coming right down on the backside of that.
That baby that we miscarried was a big surprise. We weren't planning to have 4 children. But I think what it did was it left us with more questions of, what do we do next? Are we supposed to have 4 kids? What does this mean? Does the Lord want us to have a 4th child? We felt like we did not want to have any more children, but we were open to what the Lord wanted. I think in the wake of that was, what does this mean for our family?
We got pregnant with Ellie, and it was like, man, are we on that same roller coaster again? Like, is this where, are we going to go through it again? How excited did we get about this as we found out we were pregnant? And then eventually, as we rolled through the typical milestones, this is something we actually got to be ready for. Fast forward, and all of a sudden there's Ellie, who was also not intentional.
She was a big surprise.
She was a big bonus. So, and then we had 4 kids.
If you're talking about a newborn, like somebody who's just about to have a baby, just giving yourself a lot of grace, because, you know, once you have a baby, especially right after, your hormones are just out of whack. We have the perspective of, you know, life will get better and you will sleep again. But that first time mom, you don't know that. You think I will never sleep again, and it's just so exhausting. I remember before I had Lucy, like I had all this time to have a quiet time, and it was great, and I could spend 30, 45 minutes uninterrupted. And then after she came, I'm like, maybe I have 5 minutes, you know, of uninterrupted time. And that was just really challenging of trying to figure out, like, what is how do I get back to a decent spiritual life? Like, how do I have time in the Word again? How do I have time to pray that's undivided? And so that just takes time, and it looks different. It's not always going to be the way that it was, and that's okay, because life changes.
As a kid progresses from not being able to have a conversation at all to now having a teenager who talks back, you're going to change, and there's this like revisiting thing. We had all this ambition early on about spiritual development, having these conversations. But when they were a baby and we had all this ambition, there was no, like the baby didn't talk back, like they were not there. And then all of a sudden when they're 4, you can actually have some level of conversation. And by the time they're 12, you can have most of the conversations. Recognizing the fact that, your kid's in a different life stage, and then doubling back to some of that early ambition and going, okay, what's appropriate for now that we sort of gave up on because they were too young to have that conversation or just unable to have those conversations. And so we find ourselves now with like a 12-year-old going, oh, there's some things that we should have. There's some conversations that we should have that we thought about having, but now we're ready for. Having 4 kids, a conversation we had this weekend was, have we had all the conversations with Annie that we did with Lucy along the way? So like just going, I don't want to lose a middle kid in the process of this, of the blur of life, and going, oh no, Annie became 10. And did we have the things that made sense as a 10-year-old? Doubling back to some of the early ambition and going of things that the discipleship you want to have of your kids, and then cycling back and going, okay, our kid is now at this age, we need to have this conversation. How you're going to raise your kids, I think
I don't think we knew. We asked for wisdom, and then Lord help us.
The spiritual development of our kids is, I'll say, no less are we responsible for than whether or not they turn into civilized human beings on the backside of this.
We have had to learn many different tools to go in our parenting toolbox and then see which one works better for each kid. What we do for one kid is not going to work for the second kid.
The first time we took our kids to kindergarten, and we turning them over to the wolves.
It's our responsibility.
Be the parents.
There's been a lot of trial and error. You trust that the Lord has your kids.
Christianity is not a solo sport.
We are having conversations as they come up. Hey, what are ways that you can serve with the giftings that the Lord has given you? I did not work for a year staying at home full time. I do enjoy what I do, and I do want to go back.
We can't afford that as a family.
God is love, and love comes from God. In 1 John, the Bible tells us that God is not only all loving, but that He actually is love itself. The heart of the Parent Compass television show is to bring the transforming love of God to families everywhere. In every Parent Compass episode, true stories reveal family struggles and how their lives were radically changed by the love of God. Parent Compass, an award-winning television series, is completely funded by people like you. If you have been touched by God and you want to share God's love to others, would you please pass it on? Jesus tells us to go into all the world and to tell about Him. With your donation, you allow us to take this television show into many different nations and in many different languages, free of charge. And a portion of your donation goes to Parent Compass Outreach to feed starving children. Your gift does so much. To make your tax-deductible gift, go to parentcompass.tv/donate. That's parentcompass.tv/donate. And thank you for sending love and hope around the world.